Hello, this is Elaine from Antelope Beads, and I'm really excited to be here today. We are going to we're actually going to do a demonstration of how to make this bracelet. I'm going to call this, it's a macrame bracelet. Whoops, I got to put my hand here and not in front of it. It's a basic square knot macrame. But we've added beads and an additional strand, so it's going to give it a really lacy look. And so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to adjust the camera here, and I have a tray. I'm going to assume that everyone knows how to do a basic square knot. We do have a video on YouTube that talks about a basic square knot macrame. So we're going to assume that you know that to start with. If you don't and you want another separate demo, just put it in the comments and we will address it. So what I've got here is, first of all, I've got the Dorbeth Sun Swirl bracelet bar. I've got a clasp. I've got 10 clay cult beads. These are the small sliders. These are lime green. And I've got 40 jump rings that I'm going to add into this as well. And then I also have 4 strands of 1.5 millimeter leather. These are 20 inches long. And then I've got 2 additional strands, same leather, that are 5 to 6 inches long. I'm going to use that for the center strand. So the first thing we'll do is pick up 2 of the strands of leather, long strands of leather, and I'm going to fold it in half. And I'm going to fold it in half so that one strand is kind of inside the other, just like that. And I will put this now through the slot on the bracelet bar. Okay, and then I'm going to spread this loop apart here, and I'll put all 4 of the strands through the loop. All right, and this is your basic lark's head knot. We have a video on YouTube about this too. When I flip it over on the back, it should look really nice. The strand should lay evenly there. And so that's a good start. Now I need a center strand to put my beads on. So I am going to spread these 2 little groups of strands apart like that. And I'm going to stick this, one of these shorter strands right underneath the loop like that. And then I am going to put it through the slot as well. And this is going to be a little tight, but not too bad. There we go. I'm going to flatten that out, and I'm going to arrange it so that it's sitting right between the other strands. Okay, and then now I'm going to flip it over on the back. I want to secure it. So this is my first time that I'm going to use glue in this project. I'm using the super tight glue. This is a replacement for the super new glue. We find that it's a lot more manageable, and it eliminates some of the problems with the super glue not necessarily filling in gaps and so on. It's really getting to like this glue quite a bit. And so what I'll do is take the cap off, and I've got a nice little applicator point here. I'm just going to put a small amount right between the 2 groups of strands, and I will hold this strand down now, and it's just going to take a second for it to stay stuck there. And then there we go, done. It's all done, and all I have to do now is just trim off a little bit of that tail with a pair of flesh cutters. All right, so now I'm going to flip it over, and I'm ready to do my macrame. So let's get the glue out of the way. So again, I have 2 longer strands on each side and a shorter strand in the middle. So the first thing I'll do is start to string on some beads. Now I'm going to add 2 jump rings, one of the Clay River beads, and these are the little tiny spacers, and they really do go quite nicely onto the 1.5 millimeter. And as I say that, there it goes. There we go. Okay. Okay. Sometimes if it doesn't quite go, you can just give it a little twist and it will pop right through. There we go. Okay. And I will then put the 2 more jump rings on. And you're asking yourself, why the jump rings? This is just me. If I have a silver component that I'm working with, I like to bring additional silver into the design. I just feel like it adds a kind of a sense of unity. So that's just me. So I've got my center strand. Now the difference between this and a standard macrame bracelet is I'm also going to knot around these 2 strands that are not quite on the outside. They're the ones that are just sort of more on the inside. So the only ones I'm going to knot with are the very 2 outside strands. Okay, so your basic square knot mantra is 1 strand goes over the strands we're knotting around. The second strand goes over that first strand. Okay, then the second strand goes under, and I'm doing this laying down, which I don't usually do, under the 3 center strands and around. So there's my first basic start of a knot. I'm going to get those beads down there and I will adjust this knot. Okay, and I'm not going to worry too much about those center strands right now. I'm just going to get the knot itself adjusted. So to do the second half of the square knot, what I'm going to need to do is pick the strand that is below the loop. So if it's, I always say if it's down, it has to come up. So this is the strand now that will come over the center strands. The other strand again will come over that strand, under all the middle strands and through that loop. There we go. There's the second half of our square knot. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is just take a minute and adjust not only my knot, but I'm also going to adjust these center strands so they're laying nicely on either side of the bead. And I'm pretty happy with that. I might just pull this one a little bit. There we go. Okay, so we're going to do this again. Okay, and so I'm going to take the center strand again, add 2 more jump rings, one of the Clay River beads. Come on, come on. Okay, it's funny, some of the leathers are just slightly different sizes. There we go, that one just went on beautifully. And 2 more jump rings. Jump rings just make fantastic spacers. So there I've got my second set of beads. And I'm going to go through this whole thing again here. So, and same thing I started with before. The strand that is sort of down underneath here is the one that's going to come over. And this one will come over, under the center strands, and through. There we go. Okay. Okay. And got that sort of started there. I'm going to do the same thing again. Now this strand is the one that's underneath here. So he comes over, goes out of the way, over, under, and through. There we go. Okay, whoops, didn't quite get that one. Over, over, under, and through that loop. There we go. There. Okay. Okay, and at this, again, each time I tie a knot, I'm going to stop and adjust it, make sure it looks similar to the other knots, just make sure everything's looking really nice and smooth. So I would continue this up until I get to, typically I think you're all going to need 5 beads on each side. Each wrist sizes vary a little bit. You might do 4. You might end up with a knot on the end. You might not. Now this one, you notice, this bracelet, you notice that we ended with no knot at the end. Just that was the way the length worked out. Or you may need a knot. So in general, what you're going to do is take your wrist, if I can get it up here. Here we go. There's my wrist. I'm going to make sure the bracelet fits exactly around my wrist. Just the leather part. Let's ignore the clasp part. I'm having trouble showing this. There we go. Come on. Can't quite get my wrist down there. Okay, but I'm just going to say that the leather part alone needs to fit exactly around your wrist, tight, snug. And what happens is the clasp then is going to add that little bit of extra length. So with a bracelet like this that's two-sided, we can't just glue one end in and then cut the leather on the other side to fit. We really need to kind of size it ahead of time. Again, there's a great video on the YouTube channel about how to size and glue leather bracelets, and we specifically address this sizing issue. Okay, so we're getting to the point where we're ready to glue here, and I've got a bracelet that is just about finished. Okay, and I've used, for this one, I've used actually a Clay River bracelet bar with some clay cult round beads. No silver on this one because the clay cult piece is not silver. I don't really need to tie more silver or metal into there. So what I've done, I've trimmed the ends off to just about 1/4 of an inch, and I've also tied these, trimmed these 2 little ends sticking out to the side. You can see these are going to be our troublemakers when it comes to gluing, so we'll talk about how to deal with that. Okay, get that knot snugged up there. So now I'm ready to glue, and this is the fun part. Okay, so I've got my clasp, and I'm using an antique brass clasp for this, and I am going to, and this is a really good trick for gluing multi-strand bracelets, and especially when the strands don't just nicely sit going forward. So first of all, I'm going to put some glue in the clasp. I'm going to just make sure that it's not only in the bottom but along the side. Doesn't need a whole lot. And then it's just my preference. I really like to put a little, especially when I'm doing a multi-strand project, I like to put a little bit of glue, dunk, 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 there we go, onto the ends. I think it really makes a difference. Now here's the trick. Okay, so I'm going to start from the side. I am going to capture this end into the clasp. I'm going to rock the clasp. So now I've got one side in, and then I really will have to use my finger to nudge that second edge in there. And I think I've got it. We'll find out in just a second. But there's my glued clasp on this bracelet. So here it is. This is a finished sort of a basic square knot bracelet with beads added and that second strand added that really just gives it an open, lacy look. Here's the other one with the Clay River beads and the jump rings. And I hope, oh, before I stop, I just want to show you kind of the range of color options that we can have here. I just pulled a few together here. This one is the fern, light fern leather with some, with the blue caprice clay cult beads. This is Caribbean beads from Clay River that I really like. Again, thinking these two would go with the Dorabeth bars. The Clay River bars are just fabulous. This is the ocean mist color in the leaf pattern, and I've got some the blue Celtic blue beads with some antique brown leather, and this is that the gingerbread color with just a sort of a natural brown and the copper beads. So lots and lots of color combinations. This is a great project. And just to let you know as well that you can do this project without a bracelet bar. You can just make a straight bracelet, really pretty project. And so that's it for the project today. We would love to know from you what you would like to learn next. What are you interested in? We are certainly going to do Kumihimo at some point. I think you're really going to enjoy those projects. But what else are you interested in? More knotting, some basic riveting techniques. We'd love to hear from you what you want to see on this show. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great morning. Goodbye.